Betrayed by family, she was uninvited to a celebration. Her bold ski trip selfie unleashed a storm of texts, exposing buried truths and sparking chaos. Was lying on the couch in my Asheville apartment, my laptop open but no longer useful, eyes locked on the text that had just appeared on my phone screen. Abby, just a heads up, so you're not surprised. The guest list for this weekend's party is final. There isn't enough space, so we had to cut a few people. Hope you understand. The message was from Ethan, my younger brother, who had just completed his 18-month military service in South Korea. And me, the one who sent dozens of care packages all the way to his base, who stayed up through time zone differences just to talk when he was feeling down, was now cut from his welcome home party in Chagrin Falls, Ohio. I stared at the screen, waiting for another text, something like, "Just kidding, you're a VIP." But nothing, just a cold, matter-of-fact exclusion. No explanation, no guilt. It felt like something dropped to the bottom of my chest, a quiet impact, not loud enough to scream, but heavy enough to make my chest feel weighed down with stone. I had been there for him through all those months when our parents, Michael and Linda, were too busy or too clueless to know how to talk to a son stationed in a strange land filled with sleepless nights and grueling drills. I was the one who helped Sophie, his fiancée, plan a surprise video call on his second birthday away from home. I designed the digital invitation for their engagement party, tweaking every detail because Sophie wanted it to look professional. And now I'd been crossed off like an extra guest, an outsider. Unable to swallow the sting of being shut out, I called Dad. He'd been excitedly talking about this party for weeks, the menu, the live music, even renting a huge projector for a highlight reel. The phone rang twice before he picked up, his voice familiar. "Hello, Abby. What's going on, sweetheart?" I didn't beat around the bush. "Ethan just texted me. I'm not on the guest list." "You knew about this, didn't you?" There was a pause, then a sigh, the kind I knew all too well, the kind he used when he didn't want to deal with something. Abby, don't overreact. It's just a family get-together. Space is tight. You know that." I bit my lip, my voice calm but every word slicing into me. "Not enough space?" I just saw Ethan's Instagram post with over 80 names on the list. Distant relatives, elementary school friends, coworkers he's known for a few months. And me? I'm his sister. Dad cleared his throat, sounding awkward. "Those people are SVP'd early. It's hard to take anyone off now. Don't take it personally, sweetheart." I gripped the phone, my knuckles white. Don't take it personally? I was there when he was a nervous wreck in his first uniform. I stayed up all night talking him through rough training days. And now you're telling me not to overreact? Another sigh, like I was the one making a scene. Don't make this into a thing. It's just a party. One night. I didn't respond. I could only hear my heart pounding, warning me something was about to crack. I hung up, my hand trembling. My eyes stayed on the phone screen where Ethan's "not enough space" message sat unblinking. My fingers scrolled through old photos and messages, his grateful texts when I sent homemade cookies, the heart emojis when I had his favorite takeout delivered, messages saying, "Without you, I probably would have given up already." Those now felt like a distant dream. I set the phone down and stood up, my heart echoing with silent noise. I wasn't angry at Ethan for crossing me off. I was angry because he didn't care, because he didn't see anything wrong with it. And most of all, I was angry at myself for always being there, too ready, too trusting, too quick to forgive. I looked out the window. The sky over Asheville was a dull gray, heavy like my chest. But I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't going to sit around waiting for permission to exist anymore. I sat frozen on the couch, my hand wrapped around a coffee cup gone cold. Dad's words echoed like a stuck recording, "It's just a gathering." The way he said it sounded so light, like I was overreacting, like my disappointment wasn't worth acknowledging. But how could I not be hurt when my own family so easily deemed me unworthy of being there? I got up and walked into my small home office, where stacks of design drafts covered the desk. I opened the drawer and pulled out a USB stick containing the design file for the Welcome Home Ethan poster, something I'd created for free because I thought it was what family did. I remembered staying up until nearly 2 a.m. to find the exact font Sophie liked, delicate, elegant, with soft curves. She sent me a heart emoji after I emailed the final draft. No one said thank you, but I didn't mind then. I thought if it made him happy, if things went smoothly, that was enough. I remembered when Ethan texted me during a training break, "Sis, my car broke down. I don't know what to do." I didn't ask questions. I transferred $500 with a note, "Fix your car. Don't stress." When he left for basic training, Mom didn't know how to pack his bags, and Dad was tied up at work. I ran all over Asheville to find the right military backpack, printed his packing checklist, and woke up at 4 a.m. to drive him to the recruitment center over an hour away. And now I wasn't invited to the day he came back. I turned on my computer and opened a photo folder labeled Ethan's Journey, filled with everything from his awkward first uniform photo to screenshots of our video calls, his eyes shining in some makeshift room in South Korea. My phone buzzed. A message from Sophie. Abby, I know Ethan texted you. Honestly, I was surprised you weren't invited, too, but please don't take it personally. Ethan just didn't want the party to get too crowded. I read her words as my heart turned colder, not because of what she said, but because of how they talked about me, like I was a burden to the atmosphere. I didn't reply. I shut my laptop and walked to the window. Night had fallen over Asheville. The streetlights glowed as I watched silhouettes move along the quiet street, about 1,000 miles from my parents' house in Chagrin Falls. I was always the one who came back when they needed something. When Dad had to replace the entire plumbing system, I paid the bill. When Mom needed someone to take her to medical appointments, I booked flights, rented cars, and arranged schedules. I was always willing. But now I asked myself, how many times have I given without receiving? How many times have I sacrificed because I thought I was supposed to, because I was the good older sister? My phone buzzed again, a message from Dad. Abby, please don't overthink this. It's not worth getting upset about. Please understand, Ethan just wants a peaceful evening. No tension. I let out a joyless laugh. No tension, so I'm the tension, the one who ruins my brother's peace just by being there. I walked to the closet, pulled out my suitcase, and opened my laptop, typing into the search bar, solo ski trip, West Virginia. Images of cozy cabins tucked into snowy forests, snow-covered slopes, and crackling fireplaces at Snowshoe Resort filled the screen. In that moment, I knew I wasn't going to wait for anyone to invite me. I would write my own plans. If they thought I wasn't important enough to be at that party, I didn't need to endure being treated like an afterthought. I was no longer the older sister, always behind the scenes, sacrificing in silence. Not this time. Not ever again. The next morning, I left my apartment earlier than usual. The sting of being left out lingered, but instead of stewing in anger, I grabbed my bag and headed to Blue Ridge Bistro, the cafe I visited on weekends. The morning air in Asheville carried the crisp chill of early spring. The cafe was warm, filled with the scent of blueberry scones and soft folk music that eased my heart a little. I ordered my usual, an unsweetened oat milk latte and a cinnamon roll, then picked a spot near the window where the sunlight landed on the rustic wooden table. I was about to check the news when the voices of two people behind me grew louder. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but when I heard my name, my heart froze. What's her last name again? Abigail? That was Elisa's voice, my cousin, who always spoke half accidentally, half deliberately, so others would hear. Didn't see her name on the guest list for Ethan's welcome back party? The second voice was Megan, another cousin who once asked me to design a birthday invitation for her son, then forgot to say thank you. Maybe she did something to upset Ethan. I mean, who crosses their own sister off a guest list? I heard she used to be kind of controlling. I held my breath. Maybe she stopped helping with money. I heard she used to wire him cash when he was in a bind, but now radio silence. Yeah, can't really blame Ethan. Who wants someone bringing drama to a party? It felt like someone had slapped me. My ears burned, my throat tightened. I forced myself not to turn around, biting my lip and staring at my latte. Every word sliced through what little belief I had left in my family. I don't know how long they kept talking. When I stood up, my coffee was still full, but I felt empty. I walked out like a ghost, gripping my bag so tightly it hurt. Their words weren't just gossip, they were confirmation. In their eyes, I was the extra. I walked without direction until I found myself in front of Malaprop's bookstore, a place Ethan and I used to visit the summer before his senior year, back when he was the shy little brother who clung to me in crowds. I remembered that afternoon when he picked a book about military history and looked at me with sparkling eyes. If I join the army someday, would you support me? I hugged him and said, I'll always be behind you. And in all the years that followed, I kept that promise. What I didn't expect was that by the time Ethan came back, my place had been replaced by careless whispers and suspicious looks from our own relatives. I pulled out my phone and reopened the texts from Dad, Sophie, and Ethan. All read, none replied. None of them thought leaving me off the guest list was wrong. They just thought I was being sensitive, making a fuss, being difficult. I didn't need an apology. I needed respect, something they had never truly given me. I returned home with a clear, firm decision. I would not let myself be labeled as the difficult one ever again. If they thought I didn't deserve to be part of their celebration, I didn't need to fix problems I was no longer part of. I opened my laptop and returned to the travel booking page. My cursor hovered over destinations like Boone and Gatlinburg before stopping at Snowshoe Resort, West Virginia, a wooden cabin nestled among evergreens beside a frozen lake with endless snowy slopes. No noise, no judgment, no demands. I clicked book. At that moment, I didn't know what was waiting for me in West Virginia, but I was done being the forgotten one. That night, I sat alone on the living room floor, soft yellow light spilling onto the hardwood. My empty suitcase lay open beside me like a void waiting to be filled. The apartment was so quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock. I had booked a ski trip to Snowshoe Resort, a place I'd never been, never imagined would mark the beginning of my self-rescue. I didn't book economy class. I chose first class and didn't hesitate when I hit the payment button. If I'd spent years prioritizing everyone else's feelings, sweating over details for parties that weren't mine, this time I would choose myself every single moment. The cabin I picked was private, right by the frozen lake, with wide windows looking out at snow-covered mountains and a real wood-burning fireplace. It came with a full package, private ski lessons, lift tickets, and a fine dining dinner at the resort restaurant. The cost might make some wince, but I didn't care. I was used to spending money on others. This time, I was investing in myself. Friday morning, I arrived at the Asheville airport early, wearing a thick cream-colored coat and a beige knit hat I'd bought last year but never worn. Sitting in the first-class lounge, hands wrapped around a hot cup of tea, watching planes glide past the windows, I felt a lightness, as if I'd cut the cord tying me to years of heavy expectations. The flight to West Virginia was smooth, the flight attendants treating me like I was truly VIP. For the first time, I felt I deserved that. When the plane landed in Charleston, the biting cold made me shiver, but it was a good kind of cold, one that snapped me into clarity, shedding every trace of careless words, heavy silences, and looks that no longer saw me. The driver, Tom, a middle-aged man with a salt and pepper beard and a warm voice, picked me up. "First time at Snowshoe?" he asked, fastening his seatbelt. "Yes, I heard it's peaceful and beautiful. Hoping it lives up to that." "Better than you'd expect," he smiled, squinting behind his sunglasses. "People come here to find themselves. Maybe that's what you're doing, too." I paused, then nodded gently. Maybe I am. The road from the airport wound through snowy evergreens, wooden cabins scattered along the mountainside like a holiday postcard. When we pulled up to Snowshoe Resort, I couldn't breathe for a second. It was stunning, a main lodge of wood and stone, snow-covered shingles, a soft plume of smoke curling from the chimney, like a fairy tale. The receptionist, Emily, about my age with a long braid and cheeks pink from the cold, greeted me with a warm smile. "You must be Abigail. Your cabin is ready, and here's a welcome glass of wine. We hope you have a wonderful stay." I took the glass of red wine, my hand trembling slightly from the cold, or maybe emotion. The cabin was tucked in the quietest part of the resort. Inside, the warmth from the fireplace made my cheeks flush, a bed with a fluffy down comforter, an armchair by the fire, a small bookshelf with winter novels, and outside, a frozen lake glinting under the sunset. I set my suitcase down, sank into the thick wool rug, poured another glass of wine, and sat quietly. No phone notifications, no guilt-tripping messages, no one asking me to be the bigger person, just me and the peace I'd dreamed of for so long. I opened my phone and posted a photo of the cabin with the caption, "Not on the list? Then make your own list." I scheduled it to go live 2 hours later, when I knew the party in Chagrin Falls would be starting, so they'd know I wasn't just missing. I chose to disappear with purpose and grace. That night, I sat by the fireplace with a book, occasionally watching the snow fall outside. I knew I had made the right choice. I had just poured another glass of wine when my phone buzzed for the third time in 5 minutes. The screen showed Mom with 3 dots, like she was typing something long. I didn't open it. Instead, I tucked my feet up on the armchair, pulled the fleece blanket over my legs, and sipped the wine, its berry-an oak aroma warm and elegant, opposite to the chaos in my inbox. As predicted, when my cabin photo went live, my family's reactions exploded like wildfire. The caption, paired with the image of me by the fire, glass in hand, snow glowing through the window, needed no tags or explanation, but everyone got it. The message storm began. "Mom, Abby, what are you doing? Don't let your emotions make you act like this. Everyone was hoping you'd be there. Dad, this is Ethan's celebration, not the time for theatrics. Ethan, are you serious posting that kind of photo and letting everyone gossip? What do you want?" I let out a soft laugh. What do I want? I just wanted to be acknowledged, but that was still a luxury in my family. Another message popped up from Sophie, Ethan's fiancée, who had once thanked me profusely for planning their engagement party but stayed silent as I was excluded. Abigail, I don't want to see you hurt, but things will only get worse if you keep this up. You're putting Ethan in a tough spot. I set my wine down, leaned back, and watched the flames dance in the fireplace. Putting Ethan in a tough spot? What about me? Had I ever been considered? But it didn't stop there. The next morning, when I posted a photo of golden waffles drizzled with maple syrup beside a steaming coffee with the caption, "Cold air, hot coffee, and no one controls my mood anymore," the first phone call came, not from Mom or Ethan, but from Aunt Deborah, Mom's sister, who always stayed helpfully neutral. I didn't answer, but her voicemail followed. "Abigail, I know you're upset, but you don't have to go so public with this. People will think you're turning against your family. Honestly, sweetie, come back, explain calmly, and let's all celebrate together. Don't escalate things over hurt feelings." I wept silently. No one asked why I was left off the guest list. No one wondered if I was okay. They were too busy worrying about the family's image, smoothing things over, keeping things nice, and blaming me for not behaving appropriately. The more I thought about it, the colder I felt, not from the snow, but from the blinding truth. I wasn't overreacting, they just weren't used to me standing up for myself. I set my phone down, snapped a photo from the cabin window, the frozen lake reflecting sunlight like crystal, and posted it with a thumbs up and smile emoji. Almost instantly, a college friend commented, "Living your best life, Abby. I wish I had the guts to cut ties with people who don't deserve space in my life." A former coworker wrote, "I was once the shadow in my own family. You're inspiring." I read every word, every emoji, and felt something stir in my chest. I wasn't alone. While my family tried to make me feel like the problem, strangers could see my worth. That night, as the fire faded to embers, I reopened my phone and found another message from Ethan. "If you had just come, none of this would have happened. I don't understand why you had to turn this into some big lesson." I typed a few words, then deleted them. Finally, I replied, "This lesson isn't for you. It's for me, and I won't forget it." I hit send. This time, I felt no regret, just peace. I had taken another step out of the cycle of enduring to be accepted. I was sitting on the wooden floor by the cabin window, wrapped in a blanket and sipping hot cocoa, when the phone rang again. It was Rachel, my cousin on Mom's side, the only one I still kept in touch with because she stayed out of drama and was kind enough not to hurt others for her own gain. I picked up, and before I could say anything, her voice burst through, a mix of excitement and disbelief. "Abby, oh my God, sit down. You will not believe what just happened." I took a sip of cocoa, smiling softly. "Let me guess. Someone spilled the cake, or Ethan said something dumb in front of Grandma?" No. This is way beyond that." I raised an eyebrow, sensing chaos. Rachel's voice dropped to a whisper, like she was hiding in a corner to call me. Sophie walked out in the middle of the party after throwing a mocktail all over Ethan. I nearly spilled my drink. "What?" "Yeah, turns out Ethan got caught flirting with Hannah Pierce, his ex from high school, the one Sophie swore was never allowed in shared spaces." I leaned on my knee, heart racing. Hannah Pierce's name used to set me off, even if it was just a harmless birthday comment online. Ethan never knew how to set boundaries. Rachel laughed. "Not just left, Abby. Before storming out, Sophie told everyone, I was stupid to think you were actually a grown-up." Then bam. Mocktail all over his crisp white shirt. Everyone froze. I didn't know whether to laugh or sigh. And Ethan, after Sophie left, he lost it. Punched the brick wall by the door. Guess what? Broken hand. Right wrist, swollen like a grapefruit. They had to call an ambulance. Your mom was sobbing, saying, "Everything's falling apart." Your dad ran around looking for help, but half the guests had already left. I got up, walked to the kitchen, set down my cocoa, and leaned on the counter. The chaotic puzzle was coming together, almost pitifully comedic. Rachel wasn't done. Oh, and Uncle Greg, the one always bragging about whale watching in Maine? He got so drunk he slipped and face-planted into the punch bowl. I burst out laughing. No way. I swear. But the best part, Grandma Eleanor. Want to guess what she said? I stayed quiet, sensing the punchline. Rachel took a deep breath, lowering her voice like sharing a golden secret. She looked Ethan straight in the face, hand bandaged, shirt soaked in punch, and said, "You're paying the price for cutting out the one person in this family who truly loved you unconditionally. Don't expect forgiveness from the heavens when you erase your own blood." I froze. I always thought Grandma sided with my parents, choosing peace over justice. But she said that to Ethan's face. Rachel continued. She stood up, grabbed her cane, and walked out like a queen. No one said a word. Abby, you weren't there, but you were the center of tonight. I walked back to the couch, holding the phone in both hands. I don't even know what to say. Rachel giggled. You don't have to say anything. You didn't need to be there for them to realize how important you are. They wrecked it all by themselves. And this time, you're not paying the price. I looked out the window. Snow was falling softly. The evergreens outside my cabin stood silent, untouched. Inside and out, it was calm. And somehow, in the chaos of a party I wasn't invited to, I felt free. I had just stepped out of the hot tub on the cabin's porch, towel wrapped around my shoulders, still scented with lavender oil, when my phone buzzed again. Another message from Ethan: if you had been there, none of this would have happened. I stared at the words, my finger hovering between deleting it or saving it to remind myself that some things can't be unsaid. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat on the wooden chair beside the outdoor fireplace, watching snow gather on the evergreen branches, feeling a mix of bitterness and quiet amusement. They had made me the family shield for years, only to panic when I stopped absorbing their fallout. My phone buzzed again. Mom, can you stop being childish? Ethan is a wreck, and your father and I are dealing with everything. Why is it that when the family needs you, you choose to disappear? I took a deep breath, trying not to let the anger boil over. I'd heard those lines my whole life: when we need you, you're not there. Why can't you be more like your brother and take a step back? Family means sacrifice. But this time, I was different. I no longer wanted to carry the weight of roles they assigned without my consent. Then came a missed call from Dad. When I didn't pick up, he left a voicemail: Abigail, I don't understand why you're blowing everything up over not being invited to a party. Your mother's been crying all night, and Ethan's in pain physically and emotionally. You're an adult. You should know this is when you need to come back. I pressed my lips together, eyes on the screen as another message appeared, this time from Sophie. Abby, I know I have no right to ask for anything, but I'm freaking out. I don't know what to say to Ethan, to his parents, to our friends. Everyone's looking at me like I ruined everything. If you could just talk to Ethan, maybe he'd calm down. A shiver ran down my spine. They were blaming me. Not one asked why I wasn't at the party. Not one considered that I stayed away because I was tired of fixing what no one else tried to keep whole. I opened my notes app and typed, not being there to clean up the mess doesn't mean I caused it. Then I got up, poured a cup of peppermint tea, and opened the window. The cold air swept in, carrying the scent of evergreens and melting snow. I knew if I went back, I'd end up cleaning up the pieces again, the one they never saw as important until everything fell apart. The most ridiculous part? I didn't do anything. Ethan flirted with his ex. Sophie walked out. My parents lost control. And me? I simply wasn't there, yet somehow became the center of the fallout in their eyes. I scrolled through the messages, pausing on Mom's "Can you stop being childish?" I forwarded it to myself, titling the conversation, "Why I'm Not Going Back." Then I muted the family group chat. I needed silence, not to forget, but to remember why I walked away. As night fell, the firelight danced across the wooden walls. I opened the novel about healing I'd brought and read slowly, page by page. No messages, no guilt-tripping voices, just the wind brushing the cabin roof and words whispering of freedom. No matter how hard they tried to pull me back, I wasn't in that old place anymore. I had stepped out of my old role, the silent endurer, the peacemaker, the one never allowed to be angry or say enough. I woke up to sunlight peeking through the wooden blinds, casting a golden glow across the ash-gray blanket. The wind whispered outside, mingled with the sound of snow falling on the roof, and my heart felt calm. My phone sat quietly on the nightstand, a lifeless block I'd switched to airplane mode after reading Sophie's final message and blocking them all: Ethan, Mommy, Dad, and every relative who thought they had the right to judge. I didn't feel guilty. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. After a breakfast of toast and strong coffee, I suited up for skiing and stepped outside. The view unfolded like a painting, towering evergreens draped in snow, sunlight streaking down the white slopes, and in the distance, a group of people laughing as they strapped on skis. That morning's lesson was led by Lucas, a blonde instructor with a bright smile and pale blue eyes that held understanding. He adjusted my stance, encouraged me every time I stumbled in the snow. Don't fight the slope, Abigail. Just relax. Trust your body. It knows the way. I laughed after my third fall, snow clinging to my jacket. That sounds like a life lesson. Maybe it is, Lucas winked. I've met a lot of people who came here to escape something. But once they glided down that first hill, they realized what they really needed was freedom. I looked at him, feeling something catch in my chest. He had no idea how close that hit. In the afternoon, I joined a snowshoeing tour around the frozen lake. The guide, Diane, was a warm, witty woman in her 50s. Beside me walked a couple from Richmond, David and Lauren, in their 40s, spending their annual winter break at Snowshoe. First time traveling alone? Lauren asked as we paused by an evergreen. I nodded, a bit shy. Yeah, and first time not carrying other people's expectations. David chuckled, pointing to the circle of footprints in the snow. Then you're headed the right way. Some trips aren't about going toward someone, they're about getting away. That evening, I stopped by the lodge's bar, its soft amber lighting and acoustic guitar under a wooden roof creating a cozy haven. Lucas saw me and waved me over to a table where guests had gathered. I sat down, ordered a glass of red wine, and soon laughed out loud at a Canadian guy's story of his epic wipeout on last year's slope. No one asked where I was from or why I was alone. I realized sometimes the best thing a stranger can do is not try to unpack your past. That night, I returned to the cabin, cheeks flushed from the wine and cold, but my heart warm. I took off my coat, wrapped myself in a blanket, and sat by the fireplace. The flames danced, the wood crackled, and I pulled out the journal I'd brought from home. Flipping to the first empty page, I wrote, "Freedom isn't running away. It's refusing to return to places that hurt you." I closed the notebook, placed it on the table, and turned my phone back on. The screen lit up with missed notifications, but I scrolled past them without opening a single one. I kept the block list intact. I didn't want another excuse or explanation for why I was excluded. I had chosen myself, and that choice had never felt clearer. I snapped a photo through the cabin window, moonlight reflecting on the frozen lake, tree shadows stretching across the snow, and wrote the caption, "I didn't disappear. I just started living where I belong." No tags, no expectations, just me, finally being me. I sat on the cabin balcony, a wool robe wrapped around me, feet on a stool lightly dusted with melted snow, hands curled around a steaming coffee. The sun was rising, painting the distant mountains in gold, casting a gentle shimmer through the evergreen branches like a soft blanket. No more notifications, no more missed calls, only the wind rustling through the trees and my heartbeat, steady and quiet, like a rhythm of life I'd forgotten I had. That morning, as I walked to the front desk to ask about the shuttle back to the airport, I froze mid-step. I looked at the calendar behind the counter, eyes landing on the red-circled Sunday, my planned departure date. I smiled at Emily, the receptionist, and asked if I wanted to stay one more week. Is the cabin still available? She didn't look surprised, tapped a few keys. Lucky for you, it hasn't been booked yet. Want me to hold it? I nodded without hesitation. I wasn't afraid of going back. I just couldn't see a reason to leave a place where I finally felt like myself. That afternoon, sipping wine at the resort bar, I got a message from Rachel, the one cousin I still spoke to. "Your mom's organizing a family meeting next week, apparently to clear the air. Just a heads up. You're on the guest of honor list." I leaned back, watching the golden light sparkle through my wine glass. A slow smile crept across my face, not from anger, but from knowing the game too well, an intervention masked as concern, really just a performance to push me back into the role of the one who needs to understand. I typed a short reply, "I'm too busy enjoying myself. Good luck with your mess." No exclamation mark, no fake warmth, just a goodbye I wouldn't take back. I turned off the screen, flipped the phone face down, and didn't touch it for the rest of the day. The next few days passed like a frozen stream in the woods, quiet and refreshing. I spent mornings skiing with Lucas, afternoons walking the lake trails with familiar guests, and evenings at the wooden table in the bar, listening to David's stories about getting lost on mountain hikes in Virginia. No one mentioned family. No one asked what I was running from. We were just people living in the now, with no need to explain the past. One weekend morning, sitting in the cabin reading, I realized days had gone by without feeling I had to be anywhere. I no longer felt guilty for not fixing everything, no longer felt heavy for not being on someone's list. I had once tried to fill every role, the dutiful daughter, the selfless sister, the woman who never let anyone down. But I'd learned, living for how others see you will always make you a blurry version of yourself. Now I was just Abigail, sipping coffee on a mountain, feeling the wind in her hair and the sunlight hitting a heart that had finally stopped breaking. I set the book aside, lifted my coffee, and stepped onto the balcony. The mountains stood still, solid, as if they too had known silent sorrow. I took a deep breath, listening to the sound inside my own chest, calm, grounded. I didn't know what would come after this trip. But I knew one thing for sure, I had found myself in the last place anyone thought I would. And this time, I wouldn't let anyone erase my name from my own story again. From that trip, I learned the bravest thing you can do isn't to stay and fight. It's to walk away and free yourself. I used to think I had to be there to keep my family from falling apart. My leaving made them look in the mirror. In that cold, quiet place, I found the voice that had been buried too long. Now I don't beg to be acknowledged. I define my worth in the power of my absence.